Hello and welcome to the regular meeting of the East Lampeter Township Board of Supervisors. My name is Corey Meyer and I'm the chairman. I want to inform all participants that this meeting is being recorded. Due to the COVID-19 virus and Governor Wolf's orders limiting indoor gatherings, in-person attendance for this meeting is being limited to a maximum of 25 people. We'll be observing social distancing. Additionally, based upon the order of the Secretary of Health regarding face coverings, all participants in the public meeting room are required to wear a face covering unless they fit into one of the order's exceptions. When speaking while maintaining social distance, participants may remove their face covering. Therefore, this meeting is also being offered virtually utilizing Zoom, which is a cloud-based platform for remote video and audio conferencing. The Zoom application is free to the public. The general public is therefore able to join the meeting by connection through the internet or by calling in by phone. Public is also able to observe the meeting on the Township's YouTube channel. Township is expecting to utilize this vehicle for all future public meetings during and after the COVID-19 crisis. Please continue to check the Township website calendar for any updates related to these public meetings. Agendas for these public meetings will also be available on the Township's website and be posted on the front of the Township building. Township will also be recording the meeting and making it available for viewing via the Township website and YouTube channel. While every effort will be made to ensure that live streaming and the website are working, East Lampeter Township takes no responsibility for cannot be held liable for the unavailability of live streaming in part or in full due to technical issues beyond its control. Live streams and recordings of all meetings remain the property of East Lampeter Township and are protected by copyright. Access to live streams and recordings of meetings is provided for personal and non-commercial use. Video, images, and audio must not be altered, reproduced, or republished without permission of East Lampeter Township. Joining me in the meeting room while observing social distancing are Supervisor John Blowers, Supervisor Ethan Demi. Joining me via Zoom, doesn't look like Glenn is on. Also participating to support the board and present in the meeting room is Ralph Hutchison, Township Manager. For those board members joining via Zoom, they'll be on mute. In order to accommodate public comments to this meeting, Township will be accepting public comments in writing or via email. Instructions for the submission of public comments are available on the Township website. All those providing public comments will be required to provide their name and address in order for their comments to be read into the record. Inappropriate comments will not be read into the record. I want to remind everyone that this meeting is being video and audio recorded and will be posted to the Township's YouTube channel for viewing. Call the meeting to order and we can pledge to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Third on the agenda, we have public comment for non-agenda items only.
All right, I'm the only person here.
You're the only person here. Just state your name and you can actually once you get the microphone, we'll be able to hear it better. Just state your name and where you're from. And
on. Coming through? Yes. My name's Ben King, and I'm currently located at here in East Lampeter, 20 Meadow Lane, Smoketown. And basically just here to get some feedback from the Board of Supervisors on a potential relocation of our business, currently located on Harvest Station Road, and also the property of interest that we have is also would be used as a personal residence as well. So basically, the business is we build and restore barns here in the surrounding areas, some historic barns, some new barns, etc. But we're mostly the property we have interest in purchasing is currently ag zone, and we'd be looking to use it as a personal residence, and also it has an 1850s era barn on the property that we're interested in using as for the commercial space. Do not anticipate really making any changes to the farm. So from the outside, it would all look the same. Normal traffic flow, for us in the contracting world, it's primarily used. Vehicles come and go in the morning, some construction equipment storage. But for this property, it has an 1850s barn to be turned into office space inside and storage primarily. So yeah, just interested in hearing if the board's open to creative reuse of some of these farms that kind of need a second source of income or whatever. So yeah, I think that's it.
Did you have a existing business, Ben, but not at this property where you're talking about?
Yeah, that's correct. Our
That thing-
business.
That thing probably tightens there somewhere. doesn't it?
That's all right.
That's right. You're
We
good.
can hear you.
Slide the microphone.
Slide it
Oh, yeah,
back.
the weight
it's
of, the weight of it may
microphone.
do that, Ben. There you go. Maybe that's it. There you go.
Better.
There you go. Perfect. So your business is currently in the township. You're just looking to buy this more historic property and move your business there.
Yes. So we're over on 695 Hartman Station Road currently. And I live on Meadow Lane.
We're always interested in seeing historic property used, and greatly interested in seeing an agricultural parcel readapted and reused, meeting standards. That's obviously what we're gonna, zoning standards and building codes and things like that. Those are things that we can't really sit here and say, yep, we're ready to roll on those. Those have to be adhered to, but by all means, yeah, we're definitely interested in that.
Is the farm currently, is the agricultural land currently being farmed, or is it just stagnant?
Yeah, it's currently being farmed.
Okay. Did you mention where that property is, or you don't have to
Yeah.
name it? I'm not asking you to.
I didn't mention, I'm sort of open to disclosing. I mean, it's a 16-acre property coming up for auction.
Okay.
Here at the end of the month.
Okay.
You don't need to mention it.
Yeah,
Those are
I
dynamics.
just didn't, I didn't realize if you did or didn't. That's why I was
Yeah.
asking you. I
Good.
didn't even
Yeah.
catch it. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, Ben had called me. I've known Ben for a while. He's got great business in the township. I said, I can give you my opinion, but it would be good to come to the board meeting and sort of get the feel of the board. I mean, we've talked about this on and off. It's preserving, one of the benefits I see to, or ways that we can help preserve farms, is to allow more uses on farm property, especially if those businesses take place within existing farm buildings. So, if you're knocking down a farm building and putting up a big industrial building, that doesn't make any sense. But if the average person driving the outside says it looks like a farm, it's the land's being farmed, but inside the barn, you're not storing hay, or you've got a couple, you've got construction equipment and some offices. In my opinion, that helps us preserve farms by maybe having some design standards to make sure it looks like a farm, but right now our zoning ordinance does not allow for this as a primary use or even a secondary use.
Because it's a non-ag related use, Ethan, is that what you're?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at other farms that have, we do have associated farm related businesses, and some folks stretch the definition of that
Mhm.
pretty widely, but they're doing it on their own property, and they're slowly adding those uses without necessarily telling everyone that they are. But for folks moving in and saying, hey, the farm's coming up for auction, we'd like to, keep it as a farm, but use the building as a different use that's not ag related, that's something that the board would either have to do a variance on or change the zoning to allow for that.
Yeah, I had spoken with Tara about if we would qualify as an ag supported business, and she said definitely not. So
What is your construction business, Ben?
we're a general contractor, but our primary business is barn related. We do a lot of barns, a lot of horse barns, do a lot of work in timber framing as well.
Okay.
So it could be some residential, some commercial,
Mhm.
but that's kind of how we've gotten our start, is in barn building.
Good.
So this particular barn, which is an 1850s barn, would actually be a pretty good representation of the type of work that we do as well. So we would want to turn it into something that we'd be glad to have customers come to see occasionally, as a showpiece of our workmanship too.
So you'd be moving and living on the property.
Yeah.
So would it fall under an in-home business?
Not under our current ordinance. Even my amendment to it would stretch it, but not to this extent.
Yeah, did you have a comment, Hutch?
Ethan's correct. The ordinance doesn't provide for this type of use in that zone at this point. And just as a practical matter, the quickest way to attempt to get an approval of what, and perhaps Tara already shared this with you, would be to go to the zoning hearing board for a variance. Variance is going to be difficult to get. It's a use variance, which is not easy. It's a high bar to jump over to get a use variance. So, and again, as a practical matter, if you applied tomorrow, it would probably take at least a month to get in front of the zoning hearing board to get an answer from them, which, if I understand you correctly, is after the auction is going to happen. Attempting to modify the ordinance through an amendment takes even longer. So
Are you basing your decision about the option on getting that?
Heavily.
So one, it's not, you go that direction. It's not under our jurisdiction. You could attempt to do a rezoning, right? Which, I mean, but that would be under our jurisdiction, which would then also be a month.
So,
I mean,
likely several
and
months,
it would be,
and you know, a lot to,
right.
You know, you'd be changing the entire ag zone
Right,
in some
Right.
way,
right. Which
which
I would not be for.
needs to
personally.
be thought out thoroughly.
Yeah, I had spoken with a few people, or attorneys, Matt Cree in particular, about this, and he was leaning kind of in the direction of maybe doing an amendment to the ordinance as the simplest way. We're not in a hurry to move there, so we have plenty of time to move. That's not the issue. It's more or less gauging the interest in whether or not we have support in getting the approval for that, if we were to move ahead with the amendment.
Yeah, I mean,
So the variance, the hurdle there, Ralph, is that you have to show that the zoning that's in place. Me and him to understand.
Yeah, you have to demonstrate a hardship. Meaning that there's no other, essentially, no other reasonable. That's pretty hard to argue.
Yeah, variance would be difficult. I mean, if you did an amendment that added basically added a new use to farm support with provisions for essentially design standards like we have in the village districts, that says you can't change it should look like a farm, act like a farm, have the typical traffic of a farm, and not have any non-farm impact on the neighborhood. Those would be your type of design standards and provisions you'd put into an amendment, and then you just add this as a farm support business, provided that, you know, the rest of the farm is being worked as a farm.
right, right.
So, and I'm not, I don't mean to attack any of our neighbors who are doing things, but I mean, we can all raise our hand and probably say the number of times we drive by a farm and you see a bunch of young guys jumping into trucks, loading up ladders and things like that, and heading out to do work. It's just that a member of the family is probably there, still behind, a brother, father, pitching up animals, plowing and work, but that's only one of many members. I mean, I stay closely with them, doing a lot of work on my property. It's that exact build. That is literally his life, for instance, and I go pick him up and drive his pickup trucks to my property after he and I load is scaffolding and construct from the barn. Got more tools than what we grow. You know, we put all that stuff up and have one.
Is it a home-based business or is it
Wow. How does that? It's not easy, but it's not an easy question for us. But I don't have a pathway.
well, the amendment to the ordinance? And, you know, I think to Ethan's point, you made it, and you've made it in multiple meetings, you know, opening up our you know, zoning to more opportunity for entrepreneurs to be entrepreneurs. You know, I get it. I'm open to it. I don't want to make a change for all of agriculture in one, you know, and without thinking it through, but I'm open to, you know, more ways to do what you just said.
Yeah, I mean, and this goes into all of the discussions we've had for
Yeah.
years about zoning is as we move to a more modern zoning ordinance, which we have,
Right.
we're starting to shift towards what I think is a good thing, which is we start to, and because we've passed noise ordinances, we have property maintenance codes.
Yep.
We've shifted to which I think is a better way to do it, which is regulating impact on neighbors rather than regulating use. So regulating what it looks like and the impact of it is what we're moving, in my opinion, zoning towards, as opposed to being able to say what uses are allowed and not allowed. We let the market determine what use needs to be in the building. And we just want it to
Yeah, not
look like it
sound,
fits in the
look, and
neighborhood
fit. Yeah.
and not have a negative impact on the neighbors.
And that, I appreciate the way you're saying, and that not having a negative impact on the neighbors in this situation would be is, you know, it's part of the ag zone. I don't know where it is, and I don't
Yeah,
wanna
which
know
is
that.
large.
But, you know,
Yeah.
but so, you know, it's the same thing is, you know, one of the things that I've always been a proponent of agricultural zoning as opposed to just trying to go out there and preserve, although I'm not against ag preservation or farmland preservation. I just think you get the economies of scale by through appropriate zoning is just there. It's just much more affordable and it's much more effective. And if you can, you know, keep the economy of ag, you know, with many contiguous acres supporting ag, it's a lot easier for someone to farm if they can drive on streets where they're not getting pushed off the road and you know, battling the traffic and so forth. So keeping that intact, I like the way that, you know, it doesn't affect the neighbor, which is ag farms, but yet it's a creative way to say, how can we keep this going? I mean, honestly, I see those situations all the time, and I think, how can I bring that out from what is kind of the shadows, you know, and do something with this to ensure that it benefits everyone. Weddings in that farm, probably really better off underneath your bulldozers and your farm motors and your in good shape.
So, Mr. King, I think you heard zoning's probably a high bar because of the law. A possible amendment to the zoning ordinance, which we just made an amendment last meeting, right? So, and we're hoping to keep the zoning amendments coming. Ethan has a list of things that he would like to get into the next version. But that takes time. It takes time. I think that amendment that we just passed, probably from, was it 6 months or so? Like how long did it?
I mean, we heard about it in June.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And
Yeah.
Tara,
I mean, development of it
Right,
started
yeah.
6 months before that.
Yeah,
she was
yeah.
working.
Development
So-
starts as soon as we pass the last amendment.
Right. True.
Yeah.
Which 6 months or so.
Oh,
So,
But the fact that we're keeping up with this zoning ordinance is excellent.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
that way it doesn't become an old, outdated document.
So what questions do you have for us? Anything else we can help you with?
I think that's about it for now.
Okay.
I'm not really sure. You know, like I said, we're not in a huge rush to move there. We have quite a bit of time. And I mean, even from what I had learned ahead of time, that's probably almost the best route to go is like you said, the zoning's going to be a high bar. And I can understand that. But in this particular situation, it seems like it's a perfect fit. We'll be able to make good use of a farm that otherwise is going to be really difficult to make money from, or for somebody even to purchase solely for the ag use.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if it works out,
Great.
we'd like it.
That's great, man. I like your vision. It's really, I mean, anything you can do to preserve some of those, properties, but, also raise them up to 21st century standards as well, so that they stand another 100 years. So that's great, man. Yeah,
That's
man,
good.
That's great. That's great.
Great.
Good luck. Good luck.
Thank you.
Ben.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Appreciate that.
Okay, any other public comment? Nothing. Okay. We'll move on to the consent agenda. We have a few items. 4A, approval of the minutes of the Monday, September 21st, 2020 regular meeting. We have B, approval to pay invoices from all funds. It's a total of $222,525.11. Of those bills to be paid, one significant amount of $129,774.13 to volunteer fire relief associations, which breaks down to $32,443.53 to each of the 4 volunteer fire companies, fire associations. And lastly, we have a new item for the consent agenda. It's the Stormwater Management Plan, 180 East Brook Road. It's escrow reduction request. It's escrow reduction request number 3 for that property, would leave a remaining balance of $2,000. And that's all I have for the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve?
Make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second. Made by Mr. Blower, seconded by Mr. Demi. Any other comments about the consent agenda? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay. We have item 5, old business, draft policy regarding real estate tax assessment appeals. Hutch.
Discussed this at your last meeting. We had had a number of appeals that had been submitted to the County Board of Assessment Appeals. And based on your discussion at the last meeting, I drafted this policy statement that is open for your consideration. I did look at the current policy of the school district and borrowed from it heavily, and shared this with the township solicitor, and she's reviewed it and thinks it's fine. The one thing, well, a couple things. I learned, which I did not know, I had always operated under the impression that the township as a taxing body was barred from being able to submit assessment appeals related to a single property. That apparently is not the case.
Okay.
So if we're ever in a situation where the township feels like a particular property is severely underassessed, the appeals can be submitted by the township on a single property, which was news to me. But I learned that because in reading the school district's policy, that's essentially what it's about, is if they want to submit an appeal, that's what their policy statement is. Now, they use that policy statement as their guidance when a property owner makes an appeal,
right, and
whether or not it triggers their threshold of getting involved, which
Yep.
is at $500,000. So
Mhm.
if the appeal proposes $500,000 change or more,
Mhm.
that's the trigger for the school district at this point in time. Now for them, that's a $7,000 a year value
Mhm.
in taxes.
Right.
That is their trigger. For us, it's about $950.
Right. Legal
at
fees.
At level. So I personally think for the township, $500,000 probably too low.
Right.
And
Mhm.
the difficulty with that is also that, based upon what I learned both from the school district and legal counsel, is that there is a court case out there that basically says if you have a policy and you get involved in these things on a regular basis, you can't essentially discriminate based upon class of property. So you set a threshold too high that essentially all residential properties are excluded. That's essentially a problem. So judgment call, obviously, as to where you think that threshold is, and you're not excluding a whole segment, whole classification of uses from potentially being involved in these appeals.
Again, it's the 500,000 property for say million, and that comes out of 1, or that comes out 1.5, and the property owner says no, it's only worth $1 million, and so the school district, that's you probably have very few residential properties greater where the difference would be even
$1 million.
Right.
I'm not sure yet.
Oh, we have a couple.
Yeah, probably. I mean,
There are some, it's a small number.
It's a very
it's a
small.
very small.
I mean, I'm not sure how many $2 million properties we have, because we're talking.
We might have a farm, there may be, well,
Well,
that's not.
you said houses.
I understand, I understand.
There's a
No,
couple that
plenty
are
of properties. I mean, I think to say that we're gonna get involved at 500,000, it's $950.
It's not-
Our legal
it's not-
fees are gonna be twice
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I agree.
But by passing it, we're also not required to get involved in each case, correct?
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Just
And
open the door, this
Yeah.
one we should consider.
And there are provisions that I attempted to write in there that would indicate that we would work with the other taxing
Right.
authorities
To see.
to save dollars, and when we do that, if we're sharing expenses, it would be shared proportionally to the
Right, the amount that we're trying.
tax rates,
Okay, yes.
essentially.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah, I mean,
So if we match, I think matching the school board's probably the wisest move at this point, and then we have flexibility from there.
Yeah, we'll start to track these,
Mhm.
when it hits the trigger, I'll
Mhm.
let you know. Again, part of the reason that I suggested we do this was the timing isn't always real good, so you'll have to trust me a little bit to look at these and say, hey,
Right.
this one makes sense, this one doesn't, and then I can report back to you and say, hey,
Okay.
this is what happened, this is why we made the choice that we made.
Yep.
Yep,
So-
I said mirror. Yep. Like mirror.
So would this be a resolution of the board or is it just an
doesn't
internal
need to be-
policy?
You can
It's like
just
a,
to adopt the policy, you
Yeah.
can do that by motion.
okay,
Make a motion to adopt the policy as presented.
Second?
motion was made by Mr. Demi, second by Mr. Blowers. Any other comment from the board? Any comment from the public? Comment? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Thanks for looking into that and
Yeah,
taking care of
thanks,
that.
Ralph. Appreciate that.
No new business, no action items. And 8, we have the manager's report, Walnut Street Extension, Greater Lancaster Heritage Pathway.
Yes, I reported on the MS4 activities and the Lincoln Highway streetscape activities at your last meeting. So I thought this might be a good meeting opportunity to talk some more about where we are with the Walnut Street extension. And apparently I was able to share a screen to show you
Awesome.
concept plan. So I'm
Getting there.
I'm trying. We had a virtual meeting about this within the last couple of weeks, and I just wanted to share some information with everybody from that meeting. A few things that we learned at that meeting was, as is typical of any highway or roadway project, especially something of this nature, and you're using state funds, you have to go through the historic preservation steps. And they did get a report back that the above ground findings was that there's no adverse effect from this project on any of the above ground features. They are going to have to do some additional work on phase 3 study for the below ground archaeological type historic resources, which will involve some mitigation. Now, my understanding is that that's limited basically to the area between Route 30 and Mill Cross Road. So they're going to have to do some mitigation there to get a permit and go
Okay.
forward with the project. The bridge over Mill Cross Road is going to be a 2-span bridge. They're still working. They're going to, I believe they're going to propose it to be a steel bridge, but PennDOT still has the final call on whether it's steel or stressed concrete. There will be architectural surface treatments on the abutments and the wing walls and the piers and the parapets of the bridge. One thing that I have asked for some additional information on is the location of the center pier and where it's going to be in relationship to distance between it and Mill Cross Road.
Right.
My concern or interest is that I think Mill Cross is likely to get a lot more pedestrian and bicycle traffic in the future when this project happens, especially with the extra heritage pathway part of it. So I want to make sure there's enough space adjacent to Mill Cross Road before you hit the pier that we can put some sort of facility there to accommodate that in the future. So I'm waiting for some additional information on that.
Will there be any funds that would be part of this, Ralph, for improvements to Mill Cross Road there?
Nothing that has been contemplated or discussed yet.
North side and south side. That's up now at level where that bridge is going. All that was changed. There could be some sort of accommodation there. Allow that.
Yeah, I was here in the mid-70s when that was going on, but I'm sure there was always a bridge contemplated here. What that was going to be, whether it was going to be a single span structure or a tool span structure, I don't know what they were talking about, but for a variety of reasons, I can understand why they're going to propose a 2-span structure there. So I think we just need to be careful and look at it to make sure that we don't end up boxing Mill Cross into the point where, we end up with a hazardous condition on Mill Cross Road.
Yeah.
The Heritage Pathway construction cost estimate, most recent one, is a little over $1.2 million. That's for this 1 mile stretch, between Oak Grove all the way out over the bridge and to Ben Franklin Boulevard. I believe that does include what's contemplated at the end of Walnut Street Extension, which is a trailhead for the pathway that would include some parking and the opportunity to have additional facilities there for people to connect to the trail.
What is the surface envisioned for the trailhead or the trailway itself?
Would be a paved
Paved
surface, yeah.
So about 1.2.
Yeah.
Okay.
There isn't, at this point in time, we have not identified construction funding for that pathway. So that is priority at this point to find those dollars. PennDOT apparently has indicated to them that they're fine with owning the road, the bridge, and the stormwater control measures that are going to have to be in place in that right of way to accommodate the road facilities. They don't want to have any responsibility for future stormwater maintenance because of this project. So I'm not sure how that works exactly in their right of way, but it is an issue that's going to have to be resolved at some point. They will not own or maintain the pathway, which we always expected that the township was going to have to step in, at least initially, to own and maintain the pathway. They've indicated that as far as the median that is being designed within the Walnut Street extension, and likewise the grass areas on each side of the extension, PennDOT would just put in their regular cycle of highway mowing, which is like once or twice a year. I think there's going to need to be some discussion about whether or not that's enough or appropriate.
What they're doing, talking about allowing High to do plantings and things along there. Is this?
Well, High's essentially said they don't want anything to do with it in that regard. The one area that we haven't gotten into yet is the roundabout and what would be in the center of the roundabout, which could be an enhanced type of landscaping. But again, the folks from High have indicated that they don't want any maintenance responsibility out there after they're done building it. Yeah, and I think that's kind of what we always sort of envisioned, was that it would be something more attractive than three foot high weeds.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, along the pathway, and I mean that space between the edge of the green space to the roadway is quite a lot of space there.
Yeah. And, maintenance of the pathway, could include some mowing, beside the pathway. I think that would be appropriate. But as you say, there's a lot of area in between the road and the pathway that needs to be thought about.
Does the township do any mowing on roadway right-of-ways?
We do.
And do we, I realize we do winter maintenance on some state roads. Is there any sort of concept where we could, basically mow for the state, at least those one or two times they were going to do it?
I mean, our road bank mowing is probably 3 or 4 times a year when we go out and do it. So, we may need to enter into some sort of agreement with PennDOT to say, in addition to what you're doing, if we go out there and do it 3 or 4 times,
are you okay with that?
Would they be all right with that?
Yeah.
So there's those sorts of things we could certainly consider. Quite honestly, out in this part of the township, we don't have a lot of road bank mowing. It's basically farming. It's not far away, but it's really off the tip. And we'll do winter maintenance of the extension. That was one of the main motivations for the roundabout, was so that they could, come in, go around, and go back without having to leave the state highway system. They also expressed, which we had never heard before, the idea that the township could take over an equivalent length of state highway from some other place in the township.
I saw that. I don't understand that.
I mean, the typical way that happens is what they call their turn back program, And we have one turnback road it's Hartman Station Road basically from the township line to Horseshoe. Had been a state highway a number of years ago, and it was turned back to the township. We get an allocation of dollars every year intended. We can use it for any roads, but
Right.
it's
Winter maintenance.
it's for
mowing,
maintenance of roads. And so, I guess we could go out and try to identify a 1 mile stretch of state highway somewhere. I don't know what that gets us.
Right. I don't know what gets them and what it gets us.
I'm like, still trying to figure out, I'm like,
I mean,
what would good would it do? What would be the, like, in other words, they're saying, hey, we're going to take care of this. You guys need to take care of an equivalent mile someplace else that we would normally take care of. But
I mean, frankly, I would rather take care of this. It's a brand new road with, it has less maintenance issues than a road we're going to trade somewhere else. Right? I mean,
Yeah, it's
especially
also
if
got
they're
a
not
bridge
maintaining
that's going to
stormwater.
be expensive.
I understand the bridge.
But,
Yeah.
is Greenfield,
Yeah.
is Greenfield Road a state highway?
Only the portion between the on and off ramps.
Okay, so there's a quarter mile. Let's keep taking.
But again, we don't want the bridge.
Right. The
Yeah,
bridge.
that's right.
Right.
You know,
Not that bridge.
Thanks, Stratford Pike.
I mean, if we,
I like that.
if there was some,
I need to
something we
understand
could
the intent.
get,
Like,
you know,
yeah.
as a result of doing that, but it's just sort of,
us a headache.
right.
So what is the Strasburg Pike? Is it a mile from Rockville Road up to? It's the southernmost road that
Easily.
goes out of the township or something.
Yeah, it's probably more than a mile,
Yeah.
but,
A little
I-
strange. It's odd.
yeah.
Okay.
Again, I would think we would want to get
Yeah.
something for the township if we were
Right.
going to take that
I
on.
understand.
Traffic signals, at the westbound ramps and at where Ben Franklin Boulevard is going to connect to Greenfield, those will be the township's signals for ownership and maintenance in the future. As I said before, the design and maintenance of the roundabout hasn't been determined. The township, if assuming that we're going to own and maintain the Heritage Pathway for now, they'll be issuing us a permit for that facility in their right of way. Ben Franklin Boulevard between Walnut Street and Greenfield will be dedicated to the township as a township road, very similar fashion to any other development type road that would be constructed. There is a grass median here in Ben Franklin Boulevard that we're going to have to talk to High about who and how and that might depend upon what's decided for the Walnut Street part as well. So that's my Boulevard. Then, well, goes up to Willow. So
Yeah.
that's already stoned in. If you haven't been over there,
No,
you
I
gotta-
need to.
you got to take a drive over there.
I should go
Yeah,
over.
but you're correct. It does. It goes all the way out to Willow and straight across to Forey.
Which eventually becomes a township road.
That,
Township road.
yeah, all of that
Whole way.
will be township road. Yeah.
So stoned in where? Once you get across the bridge? Stoned in.
All the way out to Willow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I need to check that out.
Yeah, the construction activity over there is massive. It's, uh,
Mountain bikes over.
That might be a little
The-
rough on the roads.
The last thing I wanted to mention was down here at the end of Oak Grove, where the trail is planned to connect in. They've got some stormwater facilities that are being designed right now in this area. It's always been identified on all these concept plans that although it wouldn't be built as part of this project directly, there'd likely be some space here for a small trailhead at some time in the future.
Right.
They're kind of telling us that space might all get eaten up by stormwater
Wow.
stuff.
So no
So-
parking, no.
I think we're going to continue to push to try to, get that squeezed as much as we can so that, my concern is that, once this is here, people are going to end up parking on
Right.
Oak Grove
In
and
the
Willow.
neighborhood.
The neighbors are not going to be happy
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah.
So we ought to have a solution, which would be in this area to put some parking.
Yeah.
So we'll keep working on
Right.
that, and hopefully we can, get the stormwater facilities that are needed where they need to be and still have some space for future
Even if it's just a driveway past the stormwater and then you put the parking.
something. Yeah.
It's just access. Otherwise, you are also going to park up in the Penn College.
Yeah.
And then there'll be access to path.
Oh, yeah. This is definitely part of the plan.
Yeah, but
And-
it's one of, if we want people driving in and using the path, having dedicated trailhead makes the most sense. Otherwise, you're
Absolutely.
going to get complaints from everybody that, hey, they're parking and using.
Yep.
And maybe, once the trail continues from here out Walnut Street, into town, which is, what the city's been working on. And, this connection isn't as a significant part, that issue might go away. I don't know. The trails that I've seen, everywhere where there's a place to get on the
Yeah,
trail,
there's parking.
you need parking.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And they're also fill up.
Ralph, what am I looking at north of your picture, your image? What with the traffic lights?
Oh, that's just a cutout. It's,
Oh,
that's not supposed to be
oh,
it.
okay.
Yeah.
this is
I'm
the-
Yeah, yeah.
struggling. I'm like, I see, now I see
Yeah, yeah.
that.
That's
for
the
you.
interchange.
It's
Yeah.
flip it. It's got to
Yeah,
go this
so-
way. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
this light is right here.
Yeah.
Yep,
And then
okay.
there wasn't enough space on the sheet to get it all
Yeah,
in, so they
that
had a
makes
cutout there.
sense. Thanks.
So, there's definitely progress being made on the design, and we have another meeting scheduled for later this week. And
Is there the sustainability person from Eurofins? She has continued to express an interest in knowing more about it and where they could perhaps be involved. Are we at a point, Ralph, where we should invite some folks to a meeting? I know you mentioned it here somewhere, future, public participation stuff. Should we be holding a public meeting to give the community an update thus far?
I think we're really close to that. Challenge is virus. That for one meeting that we could have at the beginning of the from the previous. So I don't know if we could, get those folks to join virtually and that way, or everybody else will have to join.
I mean, we could do 25, right?
Here, right?
25.
That's including.
So if we could get 19 people, hey, it'd be fantastic.
And the rest on Zoom.
And then the rest on Zoom. I mean, I do think this. I'd like to plan something. I do think that concern and interest was such a great feature that I don't think people should say, oh my gosh, you can tell anything else. Here,
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of interest, there was probably, one main concern and a couple of other minor concerns, but yeah, they should be addressed. I agree.
I mean, I think my goal would be that we continue to develop excitement about it. We continue to develop an appreciation for the community asset that this becomes and what this means for, 20 to 30 years from now, if we can get people to envision it. And I would hate to pass the opportunity to get art and Eurofins and Penn College or Pennsylvania College of Health Sciences and Hack. You know, if we could get somebody from each one of those institutions at this stage to say, hey, we'd like you to take a look at this and see what this means for our community. Not being too idealistic when I think about them involved with, this has a lot of potential. And see, like government back to my gosh, all the article in the paper last weekend about the Russell the Twana was getting $5,000. So, okay, I'll pass that on.
Yeah, I mentioned this, Tony, I mean, all for it. I think it's time for, getting that from PennDOT. Okay. Fine. Great help. And, all the other comments for, so, yeah. When do you think we'll get more decisions made from that on? I had an opportunity to run the Cuca Lake Trail. It goes from Dresden to Penn Yan, the Finger Lake, 7
Yep.
miles.
Know it well.
Well, signage was great, trailheads every mile or so. They had porta potties, clean, essentially every mile or so, but it was great. Awesome.
Yeah, no, I know that area very well. I've spent so much time since March on the Northwest.
Oh, yeah.
So much time. I mean, there have been weekends when I'm out there and it's literally like the boardwalk. It's amazing. And we stop and we eat at a restaurant in Marietta every time. There's just so much that's going on in that corridor. And while I don't envision that that's what we're doing here, it's never been part of this vision. This is ag preserve or, ag zone land. But it's a different perspective. It's a different vision of Lancaster County. It's a different experience for the bike.
And the Enola low grade down the southern end is.
People getting on it. When you look at the urbanized development to the north and to the south of this, you realize it's just a great use of a piece of land that was not going to be used.
Yeah.
Not going to be used. So.
Okay. Anything else, Seth?
Nope, that's it for me.
Okay. Anything else for the good of the order?
Nope.
Okay, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second. Motion made, second. Any other public comment? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.